joining me. It's the last day of National Poetry Month. It's April 30th, and I have one more great poem to share with you. And it's called Daniel Finds a Poem, and it's written by Micha Archer. And this was actually the story walk poem that we had at the library, but we had to take it down, unfortunately, because of the wind yesterday. But we'll try to do that again. So there'll definitely be more story walks over at the library, so stay tuned for that. Before I start reading my story today, I have another poem to share with you. Today is called, not only is it National Poetry Month, but today, April 30th, is called Poem in Your Pocket Day. And what that means is you carry a poem around with you in your pocket, and anytime you meet someone, you read the poem to them. Or since we're all confined to our homes, I think you could call somebody up on your phone and read it to them, or maybe do a virtual poem reading for someone you love. So I brought my poem in my pocket, and it's a really good one. And I think there's a good message here for you guys too. And the title of the poem is Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda. And it was written by Shel Silverstein, who's a very famous poet and wrote a lot of good poetry books for kids. So it couldn't be National Poetry Month without reading at least one Shel Silverstein poem. So this is called Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, and it goes like this. All the woulda, coulda, shouldas layin' in the sun, talking about the things they woulda, coulda, shoulda done, but all those woulda, coulda, shouldas all ran away and hid from one little did. So I hope you think about that one a little bit. See, what do you think that means? And I would just say my final message to you from this poem is just try to do a little poem in your pocket today and share it with someone special. So there's all kinds of resources for poetry on the internet, and I do have one posted on our Facebook. I'll try to post another one for you today so that you can figure out where to get a good poem. So I'm going to share the book with you, Daniel Finds a Poem by Micha Archer. And Micha Archer is the illustrator as well as the poet. And this is a really sweet little story about a boy who doesn't understand what poetry is. And I hope after listening to a poem a day or a poem or two a day throughout this month of April, some of you guys have a little bit better idea of what a poem is. And we know some poems rhyme, some poems are haiku, some poems are just a description of an experience, a sense, something you see, hear, taste, smell, feel. So see what you think. And at the end of our little story here, you'll see that Daniel understands what a poem is too. So this is Daniel Finds a Poem. Oh dear, that wind is bad again today. I'm doing this early because I know it's going to rain, and I didn't want to say I shoulda, coulda, woulda read that poem earlier today. Daniel knows all the rocks, trees, and animals in the park. How lucky is that? On Monday morning, Daniel sees something new on the park gate. It's a sign that reads, Poetry in the Park, Sunday at 6 o'clock. And Daniel wonders, what is poetry? He looks looks up in surprise when he hears Spider say, "To me, poetry is when morning dew glistens." Isn't that pretty? So the spider sees the glistening dew and all the colors and sparkles, and that is poetry to the spider. On Tuesday, Daniel climbs the old oak tree. He sees squirrels. "Squirrel, do you know what poetry is?" And Squirrel answers, "Poetry is when crisp leaves crunch." Ah, so the sound of crunching leaves is what the squirrel believes is poetry. That makes sense, because that's the time of year when squirrels are looking for acorns. On Wednesday, Daniel calls into Chipmunk's hole. "Chipmunk, can you tell me what poetry is?" Says Chipmunk. "Poetry. Poetry is a home with many windows in an old stone wall." Just sounds like perfect comfort, doesn't it? Lots of windows so Chipmunk can see out. On Thursday, Daniel makes a boat with a leaf for a sail and watches the wind carry it across the pond. He calls quietly to Frog. "Excuse me, Frog, what is poetry?" And Frog says, "Poetry is a cool pool to dive into." Of course, it's what the frog feels. On Friday, Daniel parts the cattails and finds Turtle. "Hello, Turtle. I have a question. Do you know what poetry is?" And Turtle answers, "Ah, yes. I think poetry is sun-warmed sand." That sounds nice. Nothing like laying on warm sand when you're cold and you just get out of the swimming pool and or out of the ocean and you just want to warm up. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel finds Cricket in the shade of the slide. I wonder what Cricket will say. When the shadows are long, Cricket fills the air with music. Daniel asks Cricket, "Is this poetry to you, Cricket?" And Cricket answers, "Singing at twilight when the day is done? Indeed, it is, Daniel." Now it is nighttime. We have Owl here. That night, moonlight fills Daniel's room. He hears, "Whoo!" Leaning from his window, he calls to Owl. "Owl, what is poetry?" What will Owl say? "Oh," says Owl, "poetry. Poetry is bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go." "Good night, dear Daniel," she whispers, and flies off into the night. On Sunday, the sun wakes up Daniel. He's happy when he remembers it's Sunday. Do you remember why? "Today is poetry in the park," says Daniel, have a poem. And here it is. And maybe you'll understand where Daniel got his ideas for his poem. Morning dew glistens, crisp leaves crunch. There's a home with many windows in the old stone wall. Cool pools to dive in, sun-warm sand to lie in, singing at twilight when the day is done. Bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. Isn't that pretty? It's a beautiful poem. Maybe you can figure out where Daniel got his ideas for that poem. On the way home, Daniel stops to watch the sunset sky reflecting in the pond. That looks like poetry to me. And Dragonfly says, yes, to me too. And that's the end. And I should say that this book, Daniel Finds a Poem, was chosen to be the Pennsylvania One Book for Every Young Child back in the year 2017. And what that meant was that children all across the state of Pennsylvania were reading this very same book. And so it would be a way to, if you met someone new, to say hello and talk about the book. It's very fun to do that. And we'll be doing some book clubs throughout the coming time while we're separated. So ways that we can share and talk about things. If you want to talk about Daniel Finds a Poem, please talk about it on our Facebook page or our Instagram page, or share a thought on our YouTube if you're watching. So thanks for joining me. It's been fun doing a poem or two a day with you throughout this National Poetry Month. And don't forget, today is Poem in Your Pocket Day. So remember, take a poem and share it with someone special. Don't say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, or woulda, coulda, shoulda. Just do.